Justin has requested me on Patreon to review The Little Shop of Horrors, but not the musical most people are familiar with. I'm instead reviewing the original movie directed by Roger Corman that inspired the musical. In typical Corman fashion, this was a low-budget production using the sets and actors available to him, and is particularly infamous for being filmed in only a few days, although the reasoning for this varies depending on who you believe. With a script by frequent Corman collaborator Charles B. Griffith, The Little Shop of Horrors is a very funny dark comedy that does a lot of humorous things with its story of a man-eating plant. What's interesting about the movie is the way Corman and Griffith seem to mix multiple genres together. It's a wacky comedy, a horror movie, and even a police procedural and a subplot inspired by Dragnet, and the film was able to meld these together through the movie's short runtime. The movie does feel like a sitcom, which is understandable seeing as Corman used a multiple camera setup to film the scenes. A lot of the jokes do land though, with the funniest belonging to the flower shop owner, Mr. Mushnick. Played by Mel Wells, it's hilarious how he switched from hating Seymour to loving him when his plant Audrey Jr. brings in extra business to then hating him again. And things only get funnier when he finds out that Seymour is feeding corpses to the plant, and he struggles with protecting him or turning him into the police. As for Seymour, Jonathan Hayes definitely ups the pathetic nature of the character with his performance, as he gets easily roped into the plant's murder plot, and even gets hypnotized. Hayes provides plenty of his own funny moments, especially when he goes out looking for food for Audrey Jr. What's great about Little Shop of Horrors is that even minor characters prove memorable and have their own personalities that stand out. Dick Miller has a role as a customer with an appetite for eating flowers, and he does a lot with this hilarious character. Even when he's just in the background and not saying anything, I cannot help but look at what he's doing in the scene. He serves as a fun observer to the wild happenings in this flower shop. By the way, Seymour's co-worker and love interest Audrey is played by Jackie Joseph, and Herm Miller would later play the Funnemans in the Gremlins movies. Meanwhile, Seymour has a hypochondriac mother, with Myrtle Vale getting some funny moments as he interacts with her. There's also a humorous running joke involving a frequent customer always buying flowers for funerals who's fittingly named Mrs. Shiva. The most famous person who appears in the movie is Jack Nicholson, who started his film career under Corman. He shows up in one scene at the dentist's office as a patient with a fetish for pain, and even in this small early appearance, we see the screen presence he would bring to bigger roles later. This movie has long been in the public domain, and something any company that released Little Shop of Horrors on video loved to do was put Nicholson front and center on the cover to make it seem like he's the lead actor. Some even have him holding Audrey Jr., despite them never sharing a scene. This is my DVD I've had for many years, which just has his face on it, from what looks like the 1980s. Nowadays, anyone looking for a public domain movie can often find a decent quality version on YouTube, Tubi, or the Internet Archive. But there was a time when if you wanted to watch one, you would have to make do with a bargain bin DVD that recorded the movie off of VHS, which was recorded off a Laserdisc, which recorded off a late-night television airing. At its core, The Little Shop of Horrors is a Faustian tale about the dangers of making certain bargains for popularity. Even as Seymour helps the plan grow and sees the success brought by this and the possible admiration of Mr. Mushnick and Audrey, a part of him still feels immense guilt over this and then eventually pays the price. Underneath all the dark comedy, this is a sad story of a man whose brief happiness comes at the expense of other people's lives, and Seymour eventually attempts to seek redemption for his actions. I think that's why the story has remained timeless and why it would continue to resonate in other forms, although it also says something about Howard Ashman's creativity and imagination that he watched this small little horror comedy and saw its potential as a musical. The ways he would expand and tinker with the story were so inventive and clever, understanding the humor and themes of this movie while still putting his own touches on it. While the musical remains the most popular version, there have been a few attempts to remake the original Little Shop of Horrors without songs. Declan O'Brien, who directed the Corman-produced Sci-Fi Channel movie Cyclops, announced plans to make a darker version in the late 2000s, but it was never made. And just last year, Joe Dante revealed he was going to direct a remake titled Little Shop of Halloween Horrors. Charles S. Haas, who wrote Gremlins 2 and Matinee, was working on the script, and Roger Corman would produce. However, Corman died a few months after this announcement, and the current status of the remake is unknown. If it were to happen, I do think Joe Dante is a great choice for a Little Shop remake, as he certainly has the appropriate sensibility, and I imagine he would also make it a tribute to the producer who gave him his first directing job. Anyway, the original film remains a delight with several great jokes, an inspired plot, and an entertaining bunch of oddball characters populating Skid Row. Now, if you've seen The Little Shop of Horrors, let me know your thoughts in the comments, and thanks for the request, Justin.